Hello, church family. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom, our weekly devotion following the F260 Bible plan. Last week we considered the story of Joseph, at least the beginning of it, where his brothers actually had this hatred for him, this jealousy, this resentment towards their brother, which actually led to them having him sold into slavery. So they turned on their brother. Their hatred had gone that far. But it's interesting, the story doesn't end there. Of course, Joseph is sold to Potiphar, and we see who's an officer of Egypt, and he's actually very well loved by him, but Potiphar's wife tries to seduce him, and he actually runs away, but he gets caught in a very bad situation, so he's ended up thrown into prison. So it looks like things just keep getting worse for Joseph. While he's there, he interprets some dreams for two people, which end up coming their accurate interpretations of those dreams. And later, one of those men tells Pharaoh about Joseph, and Joseph is able to interpret one of Pharaoh's dreams. Once he sees this, and the one that nobody else could interpret, it's about the coming famine that was going to happen across the land. He's actually put as over Pharaoh's house, Joseph is. And his brothers are also a part of this famine, and this happens in Israel as well. So they come down to Egypt because Egypt was actually able to prepare because of Joseph. So he's now in a position where if he wanted to, he could get back at his brothers. But we see what he does with this situation, kind of coming towards the end of that in chapter 45. I'm going to read verses 1 through 8. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him, but with Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers, they could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. They were just shocked. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near. And he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land for 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me on before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and Lord over all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt." And then we see this uniting that happens between between Joseph and his brothers and Israel as well as father. It was just a wonderful thing how God takes this really messed up and awful situation and uses it to bless Israel, to bless his children, and to go on and bless them throughout the nation. You know, it's really an incredible thing that happens here. You know, we see that God he's in control, right? We see these different trials that Joseph was going through. They seemed like they had no purpose, but actually God was orchestrating it all. He had a plan. Now, he wasn't causing Joseph's brothers to sin. He wasn't causing people to do these different things, but he was working within it. He had a plan. He had a decree, and he knew what the goal is. You know, when we go through difficult things in our life, often we don't know what's going to happen. Well, we never know exactly what's going to happen. And we often think, no good could come of this. There's no way that this can be turned around. But see, God knows the beginning and he knows the end. And so he can use everything that we go through, he can actually uses it. He uses it for our sanctification, and he uses different things in our lives to end up bringing his desired results. And we know that he graciously gives all things to his children. So he's not going to hold any good gift from us. We have that confidence as believers. One of my favorite verses in all of the Bible is in chapter 50 of Genesis, and it's at the kind of the climax of this story. Chapter 50, verse 20. It says, "As for you," this is Joseph, he says, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." That God can take even the worst situations and he can bring them for his glory. He can bring to bless people. He can bring goodness out of it. So we have a God who is actually in control. We don't have a God who just sits around and hopes for things to happen, hopes that people do certain things. No, we have a God who's actually in control of our lives, and He's one who we can pray to and can be confident in. We know He can take these situations because, Joseph, he was sold into slavery, he was imprisoned, but God actually used it for the good of His people. But think about Jesus. The most tragic event in all the world, the only sinless person, Jesus, was falsely tried. He was whipped, He was beaten, and He was slaughtered on a Roman cross. Satan thought that was the end. He thought that he had defeated Jesus. All those who were there who had crucified Him, they thought they had got this heretic away. They thought they were meaning all of this evil. But see, God meant it for good. Jesus said, "You don't take my life from me, I lay it down." No one could take it from Him. And He used it for good because it purchased our salvation. All believers in Christ, Jesus purchased our salvation. With this evil, tragic event, it actually was our salvation. And it's the reason why we can have confidence for the future. It's the reason we have hope in a future resurrection. It's the reason we have hope even now. And if God can use a situation that bad, that tragic, we know that He can take all the things that we're going through and use them for our good and for His glory. Well, I hope that you are staying with us on track. This is week 5 of our F260 Bible plan. If you're a member here at Connect or a regular attender, you can pick one up on Sunday and during the service, after service. You also can find a link in the description under this video to the plan. Also have a note about Hear Journals, which is a way to get a little bit deeper. We'll be reading more about Joseph this week, and you'll have a little bit more next week. So as you take this time to consider all that he's going through, think about the things, all that God has done, really for His glory, but also for our good. Even the deepest, worst situations. I hope you'll join us next week for our Wednesday Wisdom Devotion. Thank you, and you have a blessed day.